Greetings, my name is Hobie Chow and I'm from IT Services. I'm here to give you a quick overview of our brand new app delivery platform called AppsAnywhere. As you can see, it is a website designed to bring together all the apps you need to learn and teach at BCIT under one website, where you can actually access your academic apps anywhere, anytime. Let's talk about why we have this. Well, one, given the current pandemic situation, we want to make sure that you can continue to successfully learn and teach at BCIT. We already know, even before the pandemic, however, that students have been asking for a lot more flexibility in how and where they take their courses and use their software. So we want to make sure that we align with the expectations and what's been asked of us by our community and of the current mobile workforce. We also want to remove some of the known limitations and dependencies on physical computer labs. We know that many students sometimes have to commute long distances just to access a lab and maybe find out that the lab has been scheduled for another class, or that all the seats are full even though we have access to that software through abundant licensing. So the other thing that's associated with physical labs is scheduling. There's only so much time in the day, and we rotate many classes through the same lab sometimes. If the software ever needs to be updated or changed, it could take up to a week. So there's plenty of downtime associated with physical labs. And by separating software from physical labs, we can free ourselves from some of these limitations. And as you know, under the current situation, you can't access the campus at all. When we dive into AppsAnywhere, you're going to see a number of tiles that resemble this. I just want to let you know that this is aimed to be your true one-stop shop. So while there are plenty of underlying technologies used to deliver software to your machine, it doesn't matter what they are, it's still all under this one umbrella, this one website you go to. You're not going to be required to memorize this website or that website depending on what class you're taking. You just go to this one place and all the software you need is listed under here. Now, the underlying technology used to deliver your software may be different. In fact, when you hover over these respective tiles, you will see different delivery methods. Whether you are going to be running this in Workspace, which was our old way of giving access to apps, or whether you're just going to go download this, because for certain plugins and other software that's free especially, it just makes more sense to have you download and run the software on your computer. Okay. Now, in other cases, you'll be using this brand new technology that BCIT has invested in called cloud paging. And this is where the magic is really going to happen. Think of it as streaming. Okay. So the app will be streamed to your machine and run as if it's running installed on your machine. So you will have an equivalent experience of an app that uses your own computer, CPU, and RAM. It will not feel like you're remoting in somewhere. You'll have a very good experience by using cloud paging. So it's my pleasure to demonstrate that to you very shortly. So during my demo, I'm going to just briefly go over how to log in and taking the first steps and getting this set up. I admit there is a little bit of a setup needed, but I assure you the few minutes it takes to set this up properly will be a very good investment, especially with what this has to offer. For those of you who have friends who are keeners, who want to jump right in, just ask them to hold their horses 1 minute and just walk through the proper steps to make sure they have a positive first impression of this. I'll be sharing a intro page URL shortly, which will walk them through step by step how to set this up. Once I'm in, I'll talk about those apps tiles again, including what those buttons do and how to get more information about each app, the different delivery methods we use. We're going to demonstrate a cloud paging app. And finally, we're going to talk about how to properly organize these apps so that you can more easily gain access to the ones that you need right away for your courses. For those of you following along who are already keen to try things out, I just want to point out there's one little bit here. You'll be asked this question the first time you go there. It's just asking you whether or not you've run AppsAnywhere on your device or not. If it's your first time, make sure you click the blue button there. The blue button ensures that the right plugin for AppsAnywhere, which is required, is installed on your machine And then it walks you through a step-by-step tutorial of the features within AppsAnywhere. Don't click the green button by accident. Okay, so I'm just gonna tab out of there and go straight in. Again, for those of you who are following along, this is the website that has all the resources you need to get started. It has tutorials, it has articles, and it has some troubleshooting tips to get you started. Everything I say here will be recorded and available here as well. The address is bcit.ca/IT-services/AppsAnywhere. I'll share this link at the end of this video. My version of AppsAnywhere has already been set up, so I do not get that prompt asking me to set this up for the very first time. But once you take the few minutes to have it set up, you'll be presented with this screen with hundreds of tiles representing all the academic apps available for students and faculty at BCIT. Now, to make things a little bit more organized, there are a few options. One, you can use favorites. You can favorite an app just by hovering over the app, looking for that star in the top right-hand corner and clicking on it. And then it gets added to your favorites. But what I recommend you to do, especially as faculty, is to create app lists. App lists are custom lists of apps that you can curate and then share with others, including members of your class. I have already created a few, but I will walk you through how to create one yourself. For now, I'll just go to my personal list here. So under my personal list, I have a few apps here that I may use on a day-to-day basis. Now, when you hover over them, you'll see some very important information. As I said, some are better off just having you manually install them, like this VPN, for instance. Others can be launched through cloud paging. There may be even more than one delivery option, and you can see them when you click on this arrow here. Now let's take a look at what cloud paging does. Let's say I wish to run AutoCAD. When you look at the AutoCAD tile and click on More Info, you'll find some very important information here, including this, the estimated first launch time. Just to manage your expectations a bit, it takes a few minutes for this app, especially the beefier apps like AutoCAD, to stream over the internet and load itself onto your computer. So the very first time you load it, depending on where you are and your internet speed, it could take up to 8 minutes. This is a lot faster if you're actually on campus, but you may not see anything happen for at least a few minutes. But rest assured, it will download and it will launch. Afterwards, once it's loaded itself onto your computer, it will launch within seconds. And let me demonstrate that right now. I have already preloaded AutoCAD before this demo. So when I click on it, it will launch AutoCAD. And it will take around the same amount of time as it would if it was installed on my computer. My computer isn't the fastest computer in the world, so it'll take a few seconds. While this loads, I'd just like to remind everybody that because apps delivered through cloud paging run on your machine, there is a hardware dependency. So if someone has the latest and greatest gaming rig, they will run AutoCAD, no problem, and it'll be lightning quick on their machine. If they have a 15-year-old computer, they'll probably have a very different experience. That's something to keep in mind, that the hardware requirements depend on the app that you're using now. So as you can see, AutoCAD now is fully loaded. I am not an AutoCAD expert, so I don't admit that I can actually demo any of the main features for you. But the performance should be equivalent to AutoCAD being run on your machine if it was installed local. In fact, if you create any AutoCAD files, it even creates the file association. So when you double click on an AutoCAD file on your desktop, it will also launch AutoCAD. It even shows up in your start menu. Now, here's one thing to point out, especially for those who are eager to jump in. You notice that this is run through cloud paging and it says to use a VPN. Whereas in some cases, like SketchUp, it does not ask you to use a VPN. Well, for those of you who are not familiar with what a VPN is, it stands for Virtual Private Network. Don't worry, that's not on the exam. But what you need to know is that a VPN is a way to securely attach your computer to the BCIT's private network. This VPN usage is very common in industry, private sector, and even some other post-secondaries. It is the only way that enables your computer to access resources that are inside the company's network. In our case, AutoCAD, being an enterprise application, is designed to license itself only by accessing a server inside BCIT. So you will need a VPN to fully use this. If you don't have the VPN running, you'll get a licensing error. Consider yourself warned. Now, if you don't have VPN, don't worry. We have the tile right here for you. Again, all this is documented in our step-by-step process in this website here. Now back to AppsAnywhere. When you click on My VPN, it'll take you to a knowledge base article that walks you through how to set yourself up with the VPN. Okay, it only takes minutes to have set up. So just make sure the VPN, once it's installed, is running before you click on any apps that say use VPN. Whereas if you use SketchUp, you don't need VPN. You simply click on it. It will invoke the cloud paging player, which streams down the app over to your computer. In a few seconds, you'll have SketchUp running on your machine. And there you have it. Now, some of you may be running on Macs. In fact, we know a lot of you use Macs. The majority of our software at BCIT are designed to run on Windows and on Windows machines. So if you have a Mac, they won't just automatically run inside OS X. You will need an emulator, and we provided that for you. Under this tab here, where it says unavailable, these are apps that are slotted here because AppsAnywhere is smart enough to know what kind of operating system you're using. So for me, it may be the opposite situation of what Mac users see. So for me, I see the majority of our apps here, and the ones that I do not see are our Mac apps. As a Mac user, you'll see the opposite. You will have access to these, but you may not see anything related to Windows apps. So we have a solution for you, which is a VMware solution. So you will be able to download a virtualized instance of Windows, run in VMware Fusion, and then by using that, you will have access to our Windows apps. Anything that's available here that runs natively in OS X, like GarageBand, you'll be able to launch if you were running a Mac. Now let's talk about organization. I've already talked about how to add things to your favorites. Now what about app lists? App lists are created by hovering over your name and clicking on the app list button. You can then add a new app list, give it a meaningful name. Keep in mind that if you're sharing this with others, they will, you can probably benefit them by having something more meaningful. Okay, once the list has been created, you can start adding apps to that list. So you can just cycle through here and start adding. Make sure you save it. You can even click this button to show you only the apps available in that list. Once you're satisfied with this list, you can either keep this for your own use, or you can share this out with your colleagues and your students. And for faculty, we recommend creating this list and send it to your students ahead of time so that they can have some of these preloaded. Remember that some of the beefier apps require some time for its first launch. So having the first launch done and over with before classes would be very beneficial and efficient. So to share this list, you simply click on this button. It generates a very unique URL. You hit this button to the right and it copies it to your clipboard. You can now paste it into your curriculum page, share it through an email. And in fact, what happens is when they, I'll just paste this up here, when they go to this link, they'll be asked if they wish to proceed. Once they confirm, they will see your curated list. And in fact, it automatically adds this to their own app lists dropdown right here. Just as a tip, you will have to share this with yourself if you want this added to your own app list dropdown. It's just a little quirkiness of the program. So just because I made this app list doesn't mean it automatically appears under here. It will only appear here after I click on that URL myself. Just something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind with app lists is that if I were to edit this app list in the future, it'll be reflected on everyone else who has my app list under their app list menu here. Okay? They may have to refresh the page to see the result. Again, I recommend everyone who is new to this, go to this website and walk through these steps. A couple of things could not be covered entirely in this overview, such as if you were a user of Workspace, you may need to install the Workspace plugin. Again, Workspace is the former and used to be the only way we were able to deliver applications or provide application access to users who are remotely attending a course and need access to our desktops. Workspace works a little bit differently from cloud paging. It means that you are almost remote controlling an instance of Windows with your apps pre-installed on a server in Burnaby. Whereas in cloud paging, like I demoed here, the software is streamed to you and run on your machine. So just to sum up, we want you to be successful. In fact, we work really hard to make this available to ensure that you are. And what we recommend from you is to make sure that you take time to go in ahead of time before your classes start and test your apps and set up AppsAnywhere according to what's outlined on our webpage. And also, as IT services, we've tried our best over the summer to make this work well for you. If there's something that is not working well for you, send us a help desk ticket or go to the help desk website and let us know how we can make it work for you. We recommend, as I've mentioned, with app lists, creating them to help organize things for your students and for your colleagues. You can create them for yourselves and share it with your project team. You can even create one for your entire program if you want and share it out. And finally, just try to have a little bit of understanding of the various factors involved in people's experience here. That various things contribute, from people's the speed of their computers, to the type of operating system to use, to the type of software they're trying to load. It's all going to affect people's experience with this. And I just want to speak to home internet speeds. While yes, some people may only have 10 or 30 megabits, and some people have 600, this makes no difference once the apps are already loaded on your machines. So if you know you have a slower connection, take some time ahead of time, click the load app, go pour yourself a cup of coffee, and in a few minutes, you'll have the software preloaded onto your computer. The next step I recommend is, if you haven't already, bookmark this website, bcit.ca/IT-services/AppsAnywhere. It's a dedicated site that we have that includes everything covered in this tutorial and more, including how to set up AppsAnywhere, how to make best use of it, and how to get help if you need it. I hope you enjoyed this overview. If you have any more questions, again, please visit this website or send us a help desk ticket. Thank you very much.